Welcome back, everybody. It is another wonderful episode of Surviving Life's Pickles in this new year of 2026. Thank you for tuning in today. Again, I'm just so grateful. Hillary is so grateful. And our guest, Brian, today is so grateful that you took your time today to tune into us, to listen to Brian's story, to listen to things that we have to share with you guys today. So we appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to hang out with us. And that's kind of how we're going to start this episode off, is we are super grateful. And we're going to go around the circle like we start all of our episodes. And we're going to let Hillary start today. And then we'll move on to Brian McCurdy, which is our amazing guest today. I can't wait for you guys to meet my kindred spirit. And then I'll finish us off here. So, Hill?
Oh, okay. My gratitude today is for the support that I have seen in this past week from my family, my friends, and my coworkers. Moving into this new transition of life, we dropped the bomb last episode about me moving to part-time in my full-time job. I've been there for 10 years. So we've been starting to tell people, my coworkers, my friends at work, and everybody has been absolutely amazingly supportive and kind and excited for me moving into this new transition of life that we're going into and the amazing things that are coming this year. And I'm so grateful for that support. I was very nervous that people were going to be upset or disappointed. And I know there is some sadness in that, but I'm not leaving completely. I'm still going to be there. It's a very high stress and very demanding job. And hopefully I can pass my torch to a new person and teach them all of my crazy skills that I've gained from working there. And everybody has been so amazing with this moving into this transition. And I'm just so grateful for that.
That is hard.
It's hard.
It's hard stuff.
I mean, this has been a little while coming, but I will tell you, she was so stressed out about doing this. And this week, you have seen kind of the calm happen because people have been that way with her, which has been really great.
So. I have so many questions.
Well, hey,
we're going to figure those out a little later.
Well, at the end of the show, Brian, you've listened to a few of these. You get an opportunity to ask some questions yourself, so keep them in mind.
I will keep them there if I can remember them.
Okay.
Not always the sharpest. But...
All right, Brian, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, wow. I'd love to just tell you I'm grateful to be on this podcast and move along, but I don't think that's fair.
Well,
I'll tell you what, the first thing that came to mind when we talked about gratitude was I'm grateful to feel emotions, but I'll tell you why that is today. I spent so long masking the emotions and not wanting to feel and just shoving everything to the side that even this holiday season was one of the better ones for me because we didn't overcomplicate things. And I really was able to sit back and say, I am just glad that my kids wanted to be here. I'm glad that we were with each other. I'm glad that it wasn't overdone. I'm glad that we really could feel, that love that you'd have in your family, along with a little bit of stress and a little bit of I want to hit you, but but only to be able to feel those emotions. Probably one of the things I'm grateful for constantly out of practicing addiction, because you lose that.
Yeah,
you do. Yeah.
And your friends and whatnot, just to see the smiles on faces, like it just reminds me that there's a reason emotions are in us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes in, and I haven't told you this yet, but I mean, when we started this journey, I also started writing a book. Got most of my research done, but it's on that exact subject. The book is about being numb and not feeling and how to reopen that and kind of relearn how to use your emotions and be human. So
this will date me, but the song "Comfortably Numb," it's a thing.
It is a thing. It is a thing.
100%. It is.
I mean, there's that, and honestly, the Linkin Park song that Chester wrote, "Numb," that one hits.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of them. Well, I guess it's my turn.
It's your turn.
And everybody, it's interesting. Sometimes we just hit gratitude on the spot. sometimes we kind of really think about it and be very intentional with the episode we have coming up. This morning, my gratitude hit me like a ton of bricks. I started my morning workout routines again. I was working out. A song came on, and the song has a lot of meaning for struggles and things that I've gone through and a lot of people have gone through, and it just hit me. And so I want to read a portion of this song. And what it is I am so grateful for the darkness in this world because we become such better people by challenging it. It sucks it's there. But if the darkness wasn't there, we would never grow.
I think a better way to put it is you're grateful for the awareness.
I'm grateful for the awareness, but
Yeah.
I mean, if it just wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to challenge ourselves. We wouldn't be able to grow. We wouldn't be able to become better. We wouldn't know what it's like to suffer so bad. So when we get to the point of enjoying life, we actually enjoy life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to pop off with scripture because who I am. There is a reason that there's light and dark.
Absolutely.
And if you've seen the dark, you understand the difference in the light.
Yes.
Yeah, and you appreciate it that much
Absolutely.
more.
So a lot of people, this is a very controversial artist. You love him or you hate him. I don't think there's anybody in between.
Surprise me.
Yeah.
That's Eminem.
Oh,
Eminem is but his early stuff was whatever. But when he went through his recovery, and he has said this on a couple interviews I've seen, that his recovery album he did is still his most true to heart because it just was him changing. And in that album, he has a song called Not Afraid. And the reason this song's kind of a little bit special to me as well is some of you listening have probably seen my commercial out here in Utah. It's been on the evening news. It's been during sporting events, all over the local channels. On the way to film that commercial, I was a nervous freaking wreck.
He
It's
was.
something I don't do. I didn't know what I got myself into, but I've listened to this song. And as I read it, I think you guys can understand how this song changed my mindset going into that commercial. But again, today, listening to it when I was working out, it brought into those feelings and kind of reaffirmed the purpose. So many things have come to fruition this week we never thought were going to happen. And this song kind of explains it. So let's read.
so before you read that, tell me the energy of this song. Give me some structure so as you read, I can imagine what it feels like.
It starts off.
It's like a mantra.
It starts off like a mantra and turns into it builds the energy as it goes.
Okay.
And you can feel the emotion in him of saying, I'm here to help you.
Very cool.
So
Very cool.
So again, this is Eminem's song, Not Afraid. I'm going to read the introduction part and then I'm going to read the chorus because those are the parts that I think are the most important of what I'm trying to say here. So he starts off as, it's been a ride. I guess I had to go to that place to get to this one. Now, some of you might still be in that place. If you're trying to get out, just follow me. I'll get you there. And then we go into the chorus here. I am not afraid to take a stand. Everybody come take my hand. We'll walk this road together through the storm. Whatever weather, cold or warm, just let you know that you are not alone. Holla if you feel that you've been down the same road and I just can't keep living this way. So starting today, I'm breaking out of this cage. I'm standing up. I'm facing my demons. I'm manning up. I'm holding my ground. I've had enough. Now I'm so fed up. Time to put my life back together now. It was my decision to get clean. I did it for me. Admittedly, I probably did it subliminally for you, so I could come back a brand new me. You helped me see me through. And don't even realize what you did. Believe me, I've been through the ringer, but they can do the little to the middle finger.
Why have I never paid attention to all of those words?
It's very, very strong.
He really is a good poet. I mean,
But he's
an amazing poet.
all his later stuff is just from the heart. It's true. He is here on this earth to spread a message now. And he's doing it in a different way. Jelly Roll's known for his advocate work. Jelly Roll's known for talking about his addiction. Eminem was very quiet about it. He didn't talk about it for a long time. And now he's being a little bit more public. He'll never be at the stage, but they went through such similar things.
Silent addiction is hard.
It is.
I would venture to say that is one of the hardest parts of addiction, is when there is nobody else there, and no way to get those feelings. And going back to the emotions of, of feeling what today, but if you can't express that, and in that song, he does a great job.
He does
of expressing that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's my gratitude, because this week, we've hit a year on this podcast.
Woohoo!
Yay! We're still here.
I've had some of the most impactful conversations with guys on job sites this week that I've had in the last 6 months. All because I have Mr. Pickle on the back of my truck, and they're like, dude, why do you have a pickle on your truck? And it's opened these doors. I mean, some amazing conversations. Things are growing here. I've got trainings booked, mental health first aid and suicide prevention, and another couple keynote speaks in the next 90 days. Tons of that coming up. But the biggest thing that never was even on our radar, Brian, is the reason I met you, and that's recovery-friendly workplace.
Who knew? But I will tell you, and I have not told you this, I was drawn to you when I walked in that room, and I did not know why. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just, to me, it had to be the energy and the air you were putting off, it was favorable. It wasn't bad, but I'm like, there is something about that guy that I've got to figure out.
Well, I remember, and that's where me and Brian met. We met at a meeting talking about recovery-friendly workplace. He came in, introduced by Sean Morris, who is the one that brought us both in. And as soon as I met him, I'm like, oh, we're going to be friends. It's
worked out well.
It has. But this week it's official. We are now recognized by the government. Our 501c is official.
Is it really?
It's done.
It's time to celebrate.
We've had
some work.
We had our pretty much our planning meeting. So USARA, which Brian knows is part of, it's kind of our partner with this nonprofit. We met with USARA and the 3 founding members, which is Sean Morris, myself, and then Cameron Ballantyne, which is going to be our director of operations. You met Cameron. I brought him with me.
Cameron.
And so we had our planning meeting this week, and man, we're rolling. Guess here's the other thing. Never was on my radar, Brian. I'm speaking at the Utah State Legislature.
Oh, fantastic.
He's going to be the hype guy.
I can hardly wait. How real are you going to be?
Oh, I'm going to be real.
I'll be there in the front row.
It's gonna be fun. So I'm
gonna be in the back row because I want to see what everybody's
doing. You just need to get somebody to look at. I'll look at you in the back row. But it's happening, people. We have an episode coming up within the next few weeks with Cameron. We're going to lay down the total framework for everybody of what RFW of Utah is actually our mission is, what we are going to do. And we are starting to take applications now for businesses who want to be members. We will start signing them up in March once everybody kind of gets rolling. So it's coming. That episode is coming up. But I am just speechless with the amazing things that have happened. My heart's full because of where we have ended up, because on the lake, on a paddleboard, me and my wife decided, let's share our stories on a podcast and see if we can do this.
Yeah.
Having fun.
We'll start it from there.
Yeah.
The number of times that I had to listen to somebody else's story to either relate to mine, unrelate to mine, or feel like that gratitude level was being shifted, either plus or minus. I can't imagine a better thing to just say, look, this is not your story, but it's my story, and it may or may not help you. And here's one little bit that might give you some peace or some reason to move forward.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We've said it 1,000 times. Our initial goal was to help at least one person. And if we did that, then that's all that matters. So
I don't disagree. I love that.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we're going to roll in. It's got a little emotional. It's a little warm in here because I can just feel the energy off everybody. But Brian McCurdy's here. The wonderful guy. Said he's my kindred spirit. The first time we met was at the RFW meeting discussion we had going on. And we just hit it off right off the bat. We've got a little bit of a similar story background. We're both in the construction industry. We both love people.
Love the industry.
We love the industry.
Absolutely.
And it's just we're friends for life now. Brian has a great recovery story, but even better of what he's done afterwards and how he helps people just by sharing a story in the industry. And so we invited him here today to kind of give everybody that little snippet, whatever Brian wants to tell of, hey, let's talk about a little bit of your early years and how you got into what you got into, but we'll roll into focus on what you're doing now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, as I was thinking about what do I really want to say? What's really gonna touch somebody? What's really gonna help somebody, over that edge? You know what? I don't have that control. All I have is what I know. And I am by no means, I am not a professional in the recovery industry, in the psychological industry. And so some of the things that you may have heard or you may hear, they're mine. Do with them what you want. But at the end of the day, I think some people, and I'm with you, Hill. If one person is changed by that, then I've done, that work is done.
Yeah.
I will tell you, going, just to kind of segue into where we go from here, music for me is very powerful.
Yeah.
I use it to lift myself up. I use it to bring myself down. I use it to trigger memories that I can't remember anymore because those brain cells are gone. I love music. And so you bring in the gratitude of that. Let me just, cheers. Yes, definitely.
And you say that, and I'll throw this in because I wanted to throw this in. I didn't know how, and you threw it right to me. So Eminem has another song, and he says that music is the time machine. The time machine is truly here. Use the music to reminisce. Use the music to move forward. Music is your time machine. So right on that, Brian. There we go.
And here we go. So I'm going to take you back in the time machines. I won't tell you how old I am yet. At the end of the podcast, I might give you my age as like number of sober years. But if we're counting dates, but just because I don't want anybody to be tainted by what that may or may not be. It could be a year, it could be longer. Because really, at the end of the day, it is one day at a time. And I still believe one day at a time. At any moment, if I make a wrong choice, I really could go back right to where I was.
Yeah.
And it would probably take me harder and faster.
Yeah.
Because I already know how to do it. So, gosh, my story starts at age 15. Was living up in, up north and in Bountiful, North Salt Lake area. And we had moved in the second grade, and I just never really connected. And this'll make more sense as we get in there, but I never really connected with friends. I had a few friends and whatnot, but there's a lot of things that happened when I was a kid that framed who I am today and who I was back then. Some abuse and some of those kind of things. But man, I was a scared little kid, and I didn't fight back, and I thought I was supposed to be perfect, and I thought I was supposed to check all the boxes, and that's how I would get love, and that's how I would get, affection and teachers and whatnot. And some of it, if I think back, I never meant for it to be manipulative. It probably came across that way at times because I was that rigid with, you bet, I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you.
You want to be accepted.
I did want to be accepted. And as as I've gone through the years of trying to figure out where this all started, that is very key for me. And so what I found was the friends that I was supposed to be hanging out with, because those were the quote unquote good friends inside of the bubble. We're not the friends that were kind. We're not the friends that were good. We're not the friends that were valuable in relationships for me. And we were young. I don't fault them either. But it wasn't my community. And so what I did find is when I didn't get acceptance in the areas that my parents wanted me to find acceptance, as because they want you to find good friends and they want you to check some of the boxes. What I did find is the people doing the other things, they didn't care.
Yeah.
And so it was real easy to connect with, yeah, let's go get drunk. Let's go do this. Let's go do these things. I honestly started drinking and smoking at age 15 and some other things along the way because, you do.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until 18 that I started experimenting with, weed and coke and all of the other substances. And it became a point of whatever I can shove in. I really wasn't that picky. And, like whatever I could shove into my body to change my head.
What was available, I'll take it.
Yep, you betcha. And if it was an upper, great. If it was a downer, great.
Yep.
If it didn't have anything, I'd find something.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you move along. That's when life really started to go down. Like I had never, but once again, those friends were the ones that were accepting of me. And those friends were the ones that were, that was our common bond.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get in that mode. There is the addiction. There's the addiction side of those substances. But I will tell you the need, those other needs that were behind the addiction is what kept me there. And it kept me there, pretty hardcore. So, to kind of give you just a little bit of a highlight, I ended up getting a job at a bank. And, I was young. I was 18. I had just graduated high school. And I thought I was the shit. I mean, here I am. I wanted that corner office and the tower and all of these things, and a bunch of crap. But
You wanted the big boy job.
yeah, because I didn't understand what else was out there. But man, it sure looked good in the movies, and it looked good on TV, and it looked good from the outside. And so, I started at the bank, and this was about the same time that I was still not managing myself well. And I remember a guy came over. And I've never done cocaine. And cocaine, yeah, it's a drug of choice, yes, but really, once again, was anything I could shove in. But man, that was sure where I targeted. I'm getting a lot of flashbacks now. They're starting to pop up.
Amazing how that.
Yeah. I thought I'd put that away for a bit, but apparently it's here. So there was a guy came over. He said, "Well, try this," and I thought, "Well, that's for addicts. Why would I do that? That's stupid." Okay. You bet. Let me give it a try.
Sounds
so
like me.
I remember doing my first line and thinking, I don't know what just happened, but I feel different and I feel something I've never felt before. And, we went through the night and it was one of those, raging nights where you wake up thinking, well, that was stupid. Why did I do that? I don't feel good. I don't feel whatever. And the next time that it happened, which was a couple days later, then I knew what was going on. And then I knew what was happening. And then I knew how I was able to numb. And then I knew what I wasn't feeling. And at that point, that's like, this is for me. So, we tried to hold down jobs and, we were all living in an apartment together. There was 3 of us. And, we started, just kind of experimenting with some things. Long story short, don't put someone who's doing coke in charge of money at a bank.
Yeah.
Because that's probably not going to work out well.
Probably doesn't.
Probably not.
And I laugh about it now because I tell my kids, hey, they know me as dad, dad that stole money from a bank. And so they're like, Dad's a bank robber. We got to clean that up a bit so that it doesn't sound that way. But yeah, okay. So at the end of the day, I ended up in charge of, at first I was in the teller line and then they moved me out to the drive-through. The drive-through was on its own. And so you had to have a little bit more autonomy. And so that was a promotion. And then I ended up being in charge of the vault. In the meantime, I'd taken money and I kind of just pocketed because I needed to keep my addiction going and I needed to pay my bills and whatnot. And I took a little at a time. I thought there's a way I can get this back. I can make money back. I can start selling. I can start dealing. I can pay this back and nobody will ever know.
Yeah.
So I took a little bit at a time and I had to really track in my head what I was doing. And they audited me one time. And so for all of you that are out there that are security at a bank, let me give you a couple things to pay attention to here because I got past an audit. But you have money up front and you have money that you store in the back. and because you're only supposed to have so much, here and there. Long story short, they counted my front drawer and they said, okay, you need to count the back and make sure that you've got all that you're supposed to have. And I said, okay. And at that moment, I thought, shit, how am I going to recover from this one? Well, the auditor turned their head. I grabbed cash from my drawer. I walked back into the vault. I got the rest of my drawer, bought it, brought it back, let them count it, and it matched.
Wow.
How that worked out for me or how I was that smart, I don't know.
Wow.
So
It wasn't smart, but
that goes down the avenue of addicts are very good
oh yeah.
and very smart people. So when you start employing people in recovery, you get some of the smartest, hardest working people when they're using that mind for good things.
There are some great questions to ask there, aren't there?
Yes.
This can be extremely creative.
They can.
Extremely manipulative, extremely, I mean, there's two different extremes that go there. There's some good extremes and bad extremes. It's whether they're using them for good or bad.
It's how it's used. Yeah, you're not hiring. So, people think of an addict as this thing laying on the side of the street with a needle hanging out of their arm and dirty and whatnot. That's, to me, that's the small version
It is.
of what really happens out there.
No.
And I still see it every day. And we'll lead into that a little later because that's actually where I find some of my joy is being able to have those conversations with people and being able to say, hey, let's talk about this. I know what's going on. And, we'll get there. But, so long story short, worked for the bank, took this money, kept taking money and thinking I could pay it back. And so how I ended up finally hiding it was I just had a strap. So when you have bands you've got rubber bands of money, so say $100 of fives, but 5 of those go in a strap. Mm-hmm. So I had taken out a strap of a $2,000, took out $500 of a $2,000 deal. I accidentally gave it to a teller who ended up showing off that day. And I always felt guilty about that. So I went and paid that back at one point. But where I'm going with this is that I never meant for these things to lead into what they led into. Pardon me. And I never meant to take advantage of anybody. I really didn't even mean to do something that was illegal but your brain isn't there.
No, it's hyper focused on keeping you functioning and keeping those coming in.
Your basic needs start creeping in.
Yes.
I needed food. I needed to numb. That's not a basic need, but in that moment,
it is.
At that time frame, it was. But getting to the end of the bank story, I remember falling asleep in front of, I'd been up for a 2 or 3 day bender. I remember falling asleep at the teller line, helping people and waking up, and it was somebody different. I don't know what happened in the meantime. Anyway, so there was a day I thought, I can't do that. I'm going to go home and take a small little nap. Just take it, just enough to function. So I went home for lunch, and all of a sudden, the phone rang, and I was at home on the couch, and I remember answering the phone, and I won't name the bank, but, blah, blah, blah. This is Brian. Can I help you? And my boss said, Brian. And I went, oh, crap. And I looked at the time, and it was like 3:00 in the afternoon, and I should have been back by about 1.
Yeah.
And she says, we need to talk. So I ended up getting separated from the bank because I couldn't manage myself and I couldn't function and I couldn't adult per se. Mm-hmm. And then we found out about the money. So nobody knew about the money. Nobody knew about anything else that was going on. And back then, drugs it was out there, but it wasn't as common to talk.
It wasn't as socially out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they let me go. I had to go meet with security. And talk about things, and because they did finally figure out that I was off, $5,500. $500 of that was the money that went to the teller, and $5,000 was what I pocketed along the way to kind of thinking I could pay it back. Mm-hmm. I don't know I was going to pay it back on I'm sure it was $8 an hour, but I kept thinking I could do this. I can Miami Vice my way out of this. Right. So, I met with the head of security. When I got the job, my dad helped me get the job. My dad knew a district manager of the bank. So a little history on my father, who I do think, he has done the very best that he did the very best he could. He's still around today and lives close. So we talk and whatnot. But my dad was a cop, a judge, a hostage negotiator, a polygraph examiner, and all of the things that check the boxes for, wow, my kid's a drug user.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm sure he didn't want. So I meet with security at the bank, and I told them, and all I was really scared of was him finding out. I didn't want to disappoint him, and there was a lot there. But so they asked me, hey, well, what's up with the money? So, well, I think there was one day where I was giving out hundreds instead of ones. I was trying to be as creative as possible without saying I stole the money.
Yeah.
So I finally just said, look, is my dad going to find out? And he says, no, we'll keep that private. And I said, okay, I took the money. Here's what I did. Here's how it happened. Because they wanted to know so they could kind of guard against it for the rest of the time. It's not a small bank. So I don't think it was 24 hours, and my dad was pounding on my apartment door. I was not there, but I'm sure he was ready to kill me. And so at that point, life went really downhill. Couldn't function, so on. Started living, we ended up losing the apartment. Man, I'm not an unclean person, but I'll tell you what, if you walked in that apartment, you would have wondered what the hell was going on. And then you just figured it out really fast based on the bongs and the things in the apartment. But so I was living on the streets, and I lived, kind of place to place to place to place, wherever I could find that connection with friends and other people that were using. And I ended up living with somebody who was kind enough to allow me to live there, but they taught me how to deal. And so, and how to make money at it. And so there's the side of me that's like, look, I just want to do good things. So if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do it in a way that's good for people.
Okay.
Where in the hell that thought comes from? Because that is not for real. But I remember trying to be the honest dealer.
The honest dealer.
And not cut too much. And not, and I don't want to trigger anybody, so I try to keep that language down. But it was hard. It was, you don't know when your meals are coming. You don't know if you have a roof over your head. You don't know what kind of
where your life's going to end up.
Where your life's going to end up. And at the same time, not only can you not see it, but you're such in, living in that moment kind of mode.
Yeah.
I've had irons, like an iron that you would iron clothes with, held to my face. Been beat up, been abused, been sexually abused, and once you get to the audience, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with talking about it, because this is just kind of what happens in that world when you get into survival mode.
It does,
and it can happen to anybody. So you're not exempt, but it was harsh. And it was not a world I ever thought I'd find myself in. And I used for about, I'm trying to think of the time frame. I could tell you I've never had a legal drink. So I got sober before I was 21. So, but what happened one night is I was over at the person's house, and I was watching her kid, and somebody knocked on the door. And let me tell you kind of where this gets sad, may hit home for some people. But I remember the kid, and he was probably 5 or 6 at that time frame. He knocked on the door. He answered the door, said, "Hold on, my mom's not here." Ran to the back room, came back and says, "She doesn't have anything, so you'll have to call her."
Huh.
So here's a 6-year-old kid, 5-6-year-old kid, knowing where his mom keeps the drugs.
Yeah.
And what to do and what to say. And I don't, I'm sure she never intended for that to happen, but that was one of those eye-opening moments that I remember sitting there going, wow. So that lady comes in, she's talking to me. Everybody else is gone. We're not, they're all partying. I couldn't handle that night. It was way too much. Everybody left. And so I was just kind of hanging out watching the 6-year-old, cutest kid ever. In fact, I'd love to find him someday and to see how he's doing.
Yeah.
But second knock on the door was the cops. And like, Brian, we have a warrant for your arrest. And so fortunately, so here's some gratitude. Fortunately, somebody else was there to watch the kid. And they called me off. And they finally, because I told the bank I'd pay him back. I'd pay him, I'll make effort to pay you back. I never did anything.
Yeah.
Man, I wasn't even eating. So at the end of that time frame, like kind of at my worst, just to put it in perspective, and your audience doesn't know, but let me, I currently weigh about 245. I was 117. You could see my ribs. You could see the definitions of the bones in my arms. And I thought I was all that. Like, it screws you up.
It does.
There wasn't anything I didn't do other than I did not ever do heroin. I was afraid of needles. And that was for the other addicts, not those of us that were 117 pounds and living on the streets. I remember one time blacking out and waking up and not even knowing where I was. I remember going to the bar. I don't remember coming home. My clothes were on the front lawn. I didn't know where. Anyway,
I tell you, where came to true is I have the same.
It's amazing how many similarities you get with addiction stories, because there are so many commonalities that come between it, of where your inhibitions are just completely gone, and the lengths that your addiction takes you to.
Huge lengths. In fact, I remember getting pulled over, and I had a big scale in the back of the trunk. That wouldn't have been good. I actually ended up getting in an accident. Anyway, lots of that kind of stuff. Here's some of the problem with that is there's some of that gives you this false sense of importance, where you start thinking, aha, I made it through this. I could make it through more. I made it through, they didn't catch me.
Yeah, I got away with it.
I got away with it. Right on. Here I go. Look how big and strong and tough I am.
Yeah.
So not true. So if you're listening to this and you're on the other side, just know it can be different. And, that level of self-importance is a crash and burn all the way.
Well, and it's a false sense of importance.
Absolutely.
So I remember feeling the same way, thinking I was this bigwig drug dealer.
Right.
I had a hollowed out book, like encyclopedia, that I would keep my stuff in, but I was the innocent girl that the cops never really expected.
Right.
And I prided myself on that. And it was all a false sense of importance and a false sense. And when I finally got out of it, I realized, like, I was such a lowlife.
Right.
Why was I ever proud of that?
And why was I doing the things that I was doing? And why was I taking advantage of the people? And why was I putting up with this even for myself? Yeah. And in my case, once again, it was all acceptance. I just needed to be loved. I just needed for people to want me.
Yeah. So as we're kind of getting to this point, I think you're kind of getting to the part of your story where you're there. What happened when you had your aha moments? And what was the aha moment of, I'm not going to do this anymore?
Oh, there's a little bit that leads up to the aha moment.
Okay.
I'll tell you what that is. So they took me off to jail. Man, I was glad that glass was 3 inches thick, because it was it was the police station that my father's office was upstairs. I hadn't seen him for 2 years because he saw things one way, I saw things another, and I said, screw you, you're not going to control me anymore. And anyway, long story short, that was hard. So I ended up going in front of a judge, and the judge, basically, and I almost want to say the judge's name just so that he could be thanked, but Judge Young. Why I remember that, I have no idea. But I remember him clearing the courtroom, so I was the last one. And he just looked at me, he says, look, you had the option of either going to prison or going to treatment, but this clearly isn't working for you. And I saw it. And I was still back in self-importance mode of, I'll cut off here. I'll find a way to manipulate this situation. I didn't realize the significance of, the judge ain't going to put up with that. They're not stupid. So anyway, duh, you go to prison, you go out treatment. And growing up, my dad would tell me what would happen to me in prison because,
Yeah.
He was trying to scare you.
he was trying to scare me, scared straight.
Right.
And so I said, well, I'll go to treatment. So they got me into treatment, and I basically went in. I said, look, I'll quit the drugs, but I'm not going to quit the drinking. I'm not going to do this. And at this point, I'm on probation, and I'm, I have a probation officer, and the typical story of what happens. But they decided I just wasn't responding to treatment. Well, smart on them, because even in treatment, I'm like, okay, who can I hook up with? Who can I gain as another contact? Who can I start? How are we going to make this work? How's this going to work in my favor?
Yeah.
And so they came and they violated my probation. They took me back to jail and threw me in there for a little while longer. And, jail is, for those of you that don't know, jail is not cool. It is not what you think it is. It is not what's on TV. But it is a hard place where you are guarded every moment. I don't care who you are, you have to be guarded every moment, and it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, they moved me around and to a couple of different floors. That obviously taking money for begging is felonies, so which plays into my story a little later. But so they violate my probation, throw me back there, and you can get drugs in jail.
Yeah,
and it doesn't always mean it was up somebody's ass. It just means you can get drugs in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a moment where somebody said, do you want to smoke some with me? Or whatever they said. I knew what they were talking about. And I thought, no, I really don't.
Yeah.
I just don't. And I can't say it was because I wanted to change at that moment. I can just say I just knew it wasn't working for me. And here I am sitting here at 20 years old inside of a cell where I was allowed out for a few hours a day. And that was about it. And I think that was a pivotal moment. That was absolutely a pivotal moment. There was another pivotal moment that happened later, just to kind of shorten this down, where I've always had a relationship with a higher power. For me, it's God.
Yeah.
But there was a moment where I finally picked up scripture, and I laid on my bunk in the middle of the night, and I started to read. And I do remember praying and just saying, God, I don't know why I'm here or what I'm doing or how to do life. But if you'll help me, I promise I'll change. I don't even know if he heard me, but lo and behold, I was supposed to be in there for, I want to say it was 32 days. At day 24, they called my name and I got out, and they said McCurdy. And so I'm like, what's going on? Am I in trouble again? I had, because you live in fear.
Yeah.
It sucks to live in fear. You probably understand.
Oh, I do.
You understand. And they said, roll up, you're out. And I thought, oh my hell, why? And then my first thought was, okay, I've got to go get high. I've got to get out of here. I've got to go find my people. I've got to get some things happening, some money coming in. And that wasn't the way that God had seen that for me. So the treatment center that I was in was up in Davis County, and there was a 3-month waiting list. They let me out of jail. My mom picked me up. My mom and dad were separated. They picked me up. I went back to their apartment. I showered and whatnot, and we get this phone call. And the phone call was the treatment center saying, hey, normally we have a 3-month waiting list, but a bed just opened up.
Wow.
And if you'll come, we'll, let's try this again, or whatever they said. And I thought, okay, here's that moment. Here's that moment I prayed for. And I didn't realize I'd get this emotional, but big things can happen in your life when you let them. So I went back into treatment, and it was very different. It was totally different. My head was more engaged, and I really knew at that moment, I didn't know how to deal with some of the emotions I was feeling, but I knew in that moment I didn't want to deal with it the way that I had been. And so, I ended up, they had an intensive unit, and they had a kind of a a lot of people are familiar with the term halfway house, but you basically lived there, but you could go to work and you could, come back and you had your meetings, you had your support, you had your counselors, you had your food, and whatnot. And I ended up, moving. I went back to intensive in treatment for 30 days where you don't leave the property, you don't, or you're gone.
Yeah.
And then they put me next door into the other facility, and I was able to kind of reintegrate back into life again. And was there for about 3 months. I don't remember when I left, but I remember it was about June that I went back into treatment, and it was about September or October that I left. And kind of got things back together. And so, that's the fast version of my journey of I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. It's amazing. You call it the pivotal moment the first time you said no when you were in jail. And then that moment where you were ready to turn your will over of, I just can't do this anymore.
Right.
Help me.
And I didn't even know what that meant. I love that you said that. I didn't even know what turning my will over meant. All I knew is it wasn't working for me, whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just, we talked about it with our Triple R challenge we put out to everybody. If you haven't done it, do it. But you have to release. You have to recognize what that is, and you have to release it. And releasing it sometimes is asking for somebody's help.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes that is a person. But most of the time, it is our higher power. It is the universe. It is the love in this world that you're asking for help.
Whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
If you were, I started thinking, what are some of the things, if you start asking me key points, what am I doing today? One of those key things is find whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
Because that will be the only constant you will always have, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah. I mean, fast forward a little bit. Life for you today is so good, Brian. At least,
isn't it?
Looking from the outside in, you have a beautiful family. You have a fantastic job. You're helping people all the time. So after you're sober, now you get into, because there's a difference. You get to the I'm sober, but then you get to the difference of I'm recovered, because there is that gap.
There is a difference. And I'm not saying it was easy along the way. I remember one time I worked in retail, and I remember finding a wallet. And at that point I was still, I'm trying to be honest, trying to do the right things. And I opened the wallet so I could find out who it belonged to, so we could give them a call and say, hey, you left your wallet. Well, the envelope fell out, and I was stupid, and I opened it up, and sure enough, it was loaded with a bunch of coke. And I remember just shaking. I didn't want it, but man, it still had some control over me. This was probably 2 years in. And I fortunately, I was strong enough at that moment to go find somebody else, say, here, I need you to take this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be around this. So, when you get those little moments along the way, give yourself some grace and some credit. And, sometimes you have them and sometimes you don't. But,
absolutely.
But yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, that takes some time, and finding who you are and where you want to be and where you land. And for me today, the goal of giving back is huge, and it's real. And it's important to me to share my story with others when I think it's the right time. I never share it out of ego. I share it out of, look, I want you to hear this because I think you need to. And, whether they're going through it, or they have a family member going through it, or they just don't understand. In fact, my wife and I have been married for 25 years. So I guess this is a good time to tell you, I've been sober since July 10th of 1990. So it's been almost 36 years.
Wow.
So it's been a while. My wife has never seen what the other Brian looks like. She has no idea, which also means she has no understanding of what's going on in my head. Where is my head going? What are we, how are we going to deal with some of these things? And so, but today is great. Today is great. I get to work with fantastic people. I love people. That sounds so cliche, but for me, it's true. Like, I love being in an industry where I can be with real individuals that are going through hard things, that can, the 400-pound guy who's the toughest guy on the job site can come in and just lose his shit because he's safe.
Mhm.
And because they can.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's where my reward is being able to be that for somebody else, or being able to say, hey, you know what? Your job is no longer, I have, at my current employer, which is Hughes General Contractors, I oversee HR, marketing, business development, insurance, and risk. So I've got that hands-on people kind of thing going on. It's great to have somebody come in and be able to say, look, yes, we have got to do the business side of this, but I know what's going on, and I want to help you. And here's what that can look like. And just to even be able to open somebody's eyes for them to understand that it can be different is so rewarding.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit more now. Of what do you do for you still to stay in that recovery space? It sounds like really just giving back is part of it, but what other things is Brian doing to stay in that space so that you're present enough to help other people when they come to you?
I love that you asked that. Okay, so Brian has to constantly work on Brian, even today. I always have to remember, going back to the one day at a time, like I've never allowed myself to think that I've made it, because it doesn't mean that I have. It means that today I'm okay.
Yeah.
So community is huge. Being able to have some friends that you can go and be real with and tell them, here's what's going on. I do go to some 12-step meetings every once in a while because I love the reminder of where I've been, and I love being able to just, those are my people. They can say what they want to say. I'm not offended. It's fine, especially in a culture where there's a lot of people in Utah that have a religious background that doesn't necessarily allow for a ton of mistakes, so it's kept very hidden.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that it's okay. They're still people. And I do have a relationship with my higher power, God. Once again, that's always in my back pocket, because when nobody else is there for you and you're on the side of the road and you're weeping and you're crying and all you can think of is, what am I going to do to get rid of this pain? It's there. It's there for you. So community, higher power, paying attention to what you need mentally. And there are days where I just need to take a mental space and just say, okay, I am not going to be who I need to be for everybody else if I can't be who I need to be for me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have that flexibility of, you can walk up to the front lady at the desk and say, look, I'm taking a 15-minute break. Don't call me. I'll be back.
I do. Haven't always had that flexibility. But even then, I think, I've always been upfront and real with current employers. Some of those little stings along the way, for those of you just, starting recovery or listening to this in the hopes that you can get there, some of the little stings along the way were things like, I remember I got a job that I thought was really exciting, and I ended up working for an airline, and they didn't do background checks at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 weeks in, they did the background check and they escorted me out of the building. I'm like, but I'm trying to do the right things.
Yeah.
What? And, so accept that those things are going to happen, but keep yourself moving forward. 1% at the end of the day is still 1% better than you were.
I love that.
Yeah. I'm curious. So, I mean, you're 30 some odd years into your recovery now, and we've talked about the things that you do today.
That's been weird to hear. 31 years. Like I've been sober more than half of my life now. Finally,
that's a huge accomplishment.
I can't wait to get there.
I'm not. Once again, I don't wear that as a badge of honor. I wear it as it takes some damn work.
Yeah.
And you do it.
Yeah.
So on that, what did your recovery look like in those earlier days, just for some of those listeners that might be still in those earlier days, versus your recovery? What does your recovery look like today?
Great question. Hey, so number one, don't think that you can hang out with the people you used to hang out with.
That's perfect.
They don't intend to bring you down to that level, but it is so easy to get there.
It is.
And so you've got to find, once again, you got to find that place of where you want to be. I did go to meetings because I could go. It was someplace I could go, and I didn't have a lot of money at that time frame because I'm trying to pay back all these fines and everything. You can go, you put your dollar in the basket, you're grateful, and you get to hear somebody else's story. And it's a night out. It's not, you're not stuck in a room. I worked a lot. I tried to kind of defocus a lot. I would tell you that was not necessarily, it kept me clean. I can't say that it helped me recover, but it kept me clean.
Kept you busy.
Yeah, it kept me busy. So I would go to work and work from 3 p.m. until 10 or 11. And then I would go from 11 p.m. I worked night out at a hotel, and I would work until, from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m., 8 a.m. And then I would go home, go to bed, and do it all over again. And I did that for 2 years so that I could finally, just keep that, pay things off. And it was a safe space for me. And I did find some value in not having the time to go do some of the other things.
They call it a healthy distraction.
Yeah. Now, relationships, I wouldn't get into a relationship in the first 12 months. I realize that's kind of textbook, but it's absolutely true. Sick minds are drawn to each other sometimes. And if it works for you, great. But that was what I was always very, very cautious of.
A little funny story. I kind of 13th stepped him a little bit.
Ooh, those of you that speak the language, that is exactly what a 13th step is.
Yeah, that was, what were you, 6 months in?
6 months.
Yeah, I had 5 years at the time. Well, but it was like almost 5 years. It was right before 5 years. But yeah, I struggled with it a little bit. But
it works for some.
It's up, yeah.
But on a general rule,
it doesn't work.
It normally does not work.
Statistics show it doesn't work as well as you think it might, but still having somebody there to love and having somebody to love you back. That was one thing I do remember is I knew my parents weren't happy with what I was doing, obviously, but I always knew that my mom loved me. And I always knew that if I really needed a meal or I really needed something, I could go there.
Yeah.
Don't quit everything at once. That was another thing. Like I smoked for a long time. And I will tell you the quitting smoking was harder than quitting the drugs.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. It still goes back to, dealing, the addiction is one thing. The addiction to the substance is one thing, but the addiction to the behavior is another.
It's the habits and the behavior.
It's the habits and the behavior that hold you there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's amazing advice because I've seen a lot of people that try to do all of it at once.
Yeah, no.
And a lot of times it can become too overwhelming. So
yeah, now let's be really clear. That doesn't mean, okay, I'm going to stop heroin, but I'll keep the cocaine.
No.
Or I'm going to stop the cocaine, but I'll keep the whatever.
Yeah.
But
little wins.
Yeah, both of them little wins. Plan that one right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But and there are a few. There are the anomalies. There are the unicorns that are able to just say, I'm done.
Yeah.
I have a friend that has just recently kind of done that. Just everything all at once is I'm done. I have to.
Yeah.
But most people need to take it step by step, and it's okay.
Absolutely.
To take it step by step.
1%.
Oh, go ahead.
No, let's just say 1%. Just do 1%.
Yeah.
And figure out what your 1% is. I don't understand those people. Like I still look at those people like, how do you not?
Yeah. I've seen, so I've heard of treatment programs where they full on have you quit everything, where drugs, alcohol, sugar, caffeine, nicotine, all of those things. And when I'm saying so not quitting everything at once, let's quit all of the drugs, but you could still have those other things and work on those later, like the caffeine and the sugar and the nicotine, the ones that aren't. Go for the ones that are going to kill you today. The ones that might kill you down the road, you can maybe, work on those a little bit later.
Well, how does this saying go? Help me out here. It's basically when the pain of the change is worse than the pain of changing.
Yes.
That's when people start figuring it out. But I don't do everything all at once.
Yeah. Well, and it goes to some people will. And to Hillary's point, there are some treatment centers out there that will make you quit everything. Mm-hmm. And then on day 2, you start a workout routine. You start eating healthy. Like, it's it's that complete 360, and it's very hard.
There's a lot of recovery protocol out there. Back when, when I was going through treatment, it was kind of the same thing. This is what the book says.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was a clinic that what they would do is they would basically strap you to a chair and feed you all the alcohol you could drink until you puked all over yourself and let you sit in it for a day.
Oh.
And in the hopes that the negative behavior would get you to change.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore. There's a lot of different options now, and there's a lot of different ways that these things can happen. But at the end of the day, it's still the behavior. Like we got to work on the behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of talk now then a little bit about the behavior side, because you are in a role, like you had mentioned, where your door's open and you want people to come in and talk to you.
Absolutely.
And you'll notice behavior sometimes before they do, because you see it and they don't notice it because they're in it. But how have you created that space at your place of business, at the construction company, that these guys feel okay, that they know they can come in? How does that evolve?
Oh, that's taken some work. The construction industry wasn't, like I never saw myself in the construction industry. Especially working retail, I'd see construction. I hate to even say this, but we already decided this podcast is about being real. So I'm going to be real, and you can make your comments later. But I always thought, those are the people that are dirty and wearing orange.
There's that stigma. Yeah,
it is a stigma, and I'll tell you what, some of the most loving, kind, genuine. They're not. They work hard. They've got craft to them. They've got skill sets that you'd never imagine.
How many engineers are out on the front lines with shovels?
None.
Oh no, there are a handful in our industry now.
Are there really?
A lot of them are coming into the industry, and a lot of these companies are forcing them to start at the ground and kind of work their way up so they understand it.
Okay, so we're a lot that way. Like I can't say we've taken an engineer and put them out in the field, but I will say you've got to have some field experience before you kind of move into, some craft experience before you move into the office. So you can appreciate what the individual on the other end of the shovel is dealing with.
Right.
And I think finding that joy in your place, going, I love being on the other end of a shovel, is so much more powerful than, I get to move into the office. Like just find what you love.
Yeah. You're
going to do it a long time, and you're going to take all the emotions home of whether you like it or whether you hate it. And you're going to take it out on your kids, and it's going to permeate through your family.
Yeah.
So, do what you love. And this is why I love the industry is, number one, they're real. You get to talk to them. If they want to come in and use language that, your language isn't going to surprise me. It doesn't bother me at all. As long as you're not attacking my family, and nobody does. But it's a way to just say, look, I do very much try to drop what I'm doing so I can give my full attention. And if I don't have time, I'll let them know, look, I've got 5 minutes and then I've got to get back to this, but I want to give you my full attention. So I will turn my chair or move around, or I'll shift into the room, because they're what's important in that moment. And that may be the only moment that you get to be able to have a difference and to make a difference in that individual's life, employment, whatever the case may be.
Well, I really like what you said is you set that limit or set that boundary with them when they come and is, look, I'm here for you. I can do this. This is the time I can allow right now. And I am 100% yours for this time. And if you need me after this time, let's set another time.
We'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. But you're upfront with them and say, look, I'm going to make this time for you right now. And I think that's probably, from my eyes, what has kind of helped you get into that respect side with the guys, is they know you're going to make time right then for them. It might not be enough time, but you will make time to figure out how to move forward with what they're dealing with.
And I hope they also understand, like, I'm not here to judge. That is not my place. I'm not here to be your moral compass. You just need to feel comfortable coming in here. Mm-hmm. And so, those conversations happen a lot. There's a lady by the name, if you haven't heard of Brene Brown, and a lot of people have, she says she says a lot of things that I really love, but she also says clear is kind.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I agree. If you're clear and you're direct, that's kind.
Yes.
Trying to screw around and make somebody feel good, or, whatever, out of, being disingenuous doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I love how you said, and I love how she says clear as kind, because there is a difference between being kind and being nice.
Yes. Yes.
Being nice is just a front. Being nice is a false emotion, or what they call a counterfeit emotion. It's masking what's kind of really going on. You can smile at somebody and it's just being nice.
Right.
But when you're being kind and genuine, you're going to smile at somebody and you're going to give them some information that they're looking for, or be honest with them at that moment.
And a lot of people know when they see, they can read through that smile, whether or not it's nice or kind.
Yes.
And sometimes somebody just needs you to make a difference in their day. I worked in hospitality for a long time as well. And there was before Airbnb was a thing, we managed, condos and treated them like rentals and so on. Long story short, there was one individual, he was a NASA scientist, and I won't say his name, but he was one of the owners, and all the staff just despised him because he didn't tip, and he wasn't ever nice, and he wasn't ever you never got anything out of him. You couldn't carry on a conversation, and that was one of those moments like, look, I'm going to make a difference in this guy's life, and I don't care what it takes. I'm going to treat him in a way that he's probably never been treated before. And I remember the day that he came up to the front desk. All I had done was fix something in his condo or done something. And he came up and he handed me $5. And these condos were $3 million, $4 million condos. He handed me $5. And that $5 meant more to me because I knew that he got it. That difference was made when he came and said thank you and handed me $5. I wish I still had the $5. I needed it for a drink one day.
So what did you do to get him to get that?
I honestly don't know. I just treated him with respect.
Huh.
And it goes back to, in life, in employment, and whatever else, treat the other person with respect. Now, I'm not perfect at that. So those of you that know me that have thought, well, Brian, that's a bunch of bullshit. But at the end of the day, what's in my heart is treating somebody with respect so that you can gain the same thing from them.
Respect, honesty, like I say, being clear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned Brene Brown. And if any of our listeners have not listened to this is what took her, completely launched her entire career, was the power of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't seen her, I think it was a TED Talk on power of vulnerability, you need to go look that up.
She's got a TED Talk, and then she's got a Netflix special that's like an hour long. But yeah,
oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's she's out on stage, and she kind of goes into that further.
Guess that's what we're doing later today.
There you go. Speaking of that is one thing where when somebody's coming to you, they are being very vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And that's why that non-judgmental version of respect and clear as kind, that's where that really comes into play. I'll say vulnerability is still really hard for me.
Yes.
I still want to be liked. I still want to be loved. I still want to be, all of those things. I don't deal with them the same as I used to, but if you're willing to be vulnerable, change happens.
It does.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that you're saying this, Brian, you are, in the world's eyes, a manly man. You work in construction. You might be on the management side, but you work in...
Hold on, I have to process this one from it. I'm thinking of it. I use a lot of hair product and I like to groom. Let's talk manly man again.
You're this manly man who works in construction. You're very well respected. I mean, you're, like you said, you're 240 pounds and you're 6'1", 6'2"?
Yeah, 5'11".
So you're kind of this man that people look up to. You walk down the street and they're like, hey, this guy's got it all together. But you're sitting here and saying how vulnerability is key to making you who you are. And that's just commendable. And I think that's one of these huge things that so many of the people listening, some of the guys that are listening, don't understand, that it is so okay.
Oh, yeah.
To show these emotions, and it's so okay to talk about them. That makes you more of a man than if you hold it in silence.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we're trying to push more, is that vulnerability is key. It is powerful, and it can change so many people's lives.
Well, and as we move into mental health space, you're not helping yourself by shoving everything away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to let it out. In fact, if The number of times I've started shedding a couple of tears even during this podcast as you guys are looking at me, um, that is real. And there's the outside. Sometimes people think there's the outside Brian, there's the inside Brian. It's really hard to integrate that in for anybody to be able to be both at the same time and be genuine and be who you are. But if you can achieve that, and that takes a lot of work. Like I see a therapist to help me get there, because sometimes I just need to be able to talk to somebody and say whatever I want to say, thoughts that I would be scared to death to tell a friend, thoughts that I wouldn't tell my coworkers. But get to the space where you can be you, because chances are you're awesome. You're fantastic. You've got so much, everybody has so much going for them that they just don't realize. I hate social media. In fact, it's the one thing, if anybody hears this, they'll understand. I don't want to look at it. It's the one part of my job I actually hate, because I don't want to look at it. I don't care who's eating what for dinner. I don't care who looks like they had the best vacations. I don't care, because it doesn't feel real to me.
Yeah.
So it's very surface.
When you get a podcast like Surviving Life's Pickles, that's the real stuff. But if you can show that to others, man, you get to gain some credibility pretty fast. And sometimes the inside Brian is scared little kid in a corner.
Yeah. Well, we all are to a point.
Yeah.
Sure. But as you were saying that, I was kind of reflecting with everything with me. And I remember a time years ago where I had the at work Scott, at work fun guy, the at work serious guy, and then at home I had the disciplined dad and the fun dad, and then the husband, and all these were different versions of Scott. And now everybody gets the same version. And I've had people tell me this who have known me for a long time of, hey, it's here. And one of the funny little quick stories is we were in Moab with our girls back in September. And that my girls have watched me go through a lot of this. My older ones didn't know so many things until they came and listened to me speak the first time. And I warned them. I said, you're going to hear stuff you didn't know, and you're going to hear stuff that surprised them. But I got hugs from both of them afterwards, and that changed our whole relationship. When we were in Moab, we're out doing like 65 miles an hour through the burbs in the truck. And my oldest daughter looks over to me and she's, my dad's back. Because
there's a win.
There was a win.
There's a win.
Because she's seen that I was back, because I was out having fun with my family, and it didn't matter what happened. Like, I wasn't worried about, well, if we break it, we break it. If we do it, we were experiencing a fun time as a family. And that still sticks with me since she said that. I was just like, you know what, that means a lot, because I feel like I'm trying just to be me now.
Yeah, you don't have to be, you don't have to be the intense dad, the intense, right. You need to be the father. At the end of the day, don't you just want your kids to want to come back and have that relationship with you?
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that if they think you've got this persona of, my dad will never accept me if I X. Or, my mom will never love me if she finds out what I've really been doing.
Yeah.
And on the other side, once again, you be the kind of parent or the kind of friend where you don't have to worry about judging. You're just there to love.
Yeah.
That love changes a lot of things.
Well, and on that note, I will tell you, if you start being real with yourself, and maybe you are scared of that dad, like you were,
right?
Or your mom or whatever, they'll be ashamed of me. They're not going to like who I am. They're going to disown me. Well, my mom didn't know a lot of stuff. She knew I struggled for years and different things. Because we've started this and I've opened up and she's been listening, we've been able to have very open conversations. She made the comment to us over the Christmas break of, I really love where our relationship's going, because now we talk all the time.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And it's because I decided I don't care what anybody thinks. They can feel, they can think what they want.
Right.
This is what's happened. This is what I'm doing. This is me. Either accept it or don't accept it. That's your choice. I'm still going to be me either way.
I'll tell you what I wish is I would have figured that out a long time ago.
If we had figured that out when we were in elementary school, man, life would have been great, right?
Yeah.
The last 5 years have been a lot of growth for me to where I finally put my heels in, and you know, I'm 56, and I wish that I would have done that at 30. I wish I'd have done it at 20. I wish I'd have done it even at 40. But you know, those kids, they already look at you as this figure that's, you know, untouchable, without realizing, you know, we make mistakes. And I'll tell you, one of the first things that I really try hard to work on, if you know, adding to the question from earlier, is I try to apologize to my kids when I've wronged them.
Yeah.
Because I want them to know it's okay, and I want them to know I'm not perfect.
Yeah. And you accept it when you screw up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
good.
Yeah. In fact, I said something to my little 9-year-old the other day, and it came across an adult tone and an adult sarcasm, and it was not good the way he received that comment. You know, maybe I'll share it, but our kids are young. I've got a 9 and 10-year-old, then I got some others above that, but the 9 and 10-year-old boy girl fight all the time.
Yeah.
And they were doing it again the other night, and my wife said, "Why do you guys always fight?" And I said, "Because they're alive." And while that was true,
Right.
it would have come across a little better had it been because you're awake. That little 9-year-old went to bed crying because he didn't think Dad wanted him alive because of the fighting. And so, you know, words are strong.
Yeah.
Words are powerful. So we get an opportunity to choose them wisely, but we don't always choose them wisely.
Yeah.
And even in employment situations, or, you know, in life situations, apologizing is humbling.
It's you owning it. You got to own your mistakes.
Own our mistakes.
It also teaches them, you're showing them an example of, I'm not perfect and I make mistakes, and it teaches them that they don't have to, but when they do, that they can apologize for it as well.
Yeah. Even at work, when you make a mistake,
100%.
like, once again, building credibility. Look, I fuck things up too.
Yep.
Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out and move forward. No big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've had a couple incidences at a former employer that cost the company thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
It happens.
But because I went to them after I realized what had happened, before they had figured it out, and says, "Look, I just figured out I did this. It's costing us and the customer this much money. I am so sorry. How can we correct this? And what do we need to do to correct it on my end?" When you own it and you move forward, you get that credibility, the respect, and everybody is so much more accepting than if you're trying to hide it until somebody finds it.
My sense is that's the reason that Hillary, after 10 years, is sad to walk away a little bit and make this transition.
Yeah.
But it's because she's tried to be everything that she can be at work, and they probably very much appreciate that. They wouldn't be sad either. Right? They're like, "Oh, hallelujah." Obviously, you've earned that respect.
Yeah. That was one thing going into my position.
I don't even know what
that
you do, by the way.
I do the same thing as you. I do HR.
Let's get some stories.
I work HR for recovery, drug and alcohol rehab facility.
Okay.
So
you've got some stuff.
I've got some stuff. But going into my position, that was one of my initial goals, was to always own up to any of my mistakes. And I learned that early on in my recovery, and I implemented that very quickly, because during my addiction and struggle, I was a liar. I was dishonest. And that was something that just really stuck with me, that I learned early on in recovery, was honesty in all things. And
so true.
The moment that I was honest in everything, when I screwed up and I would own up to it, I actually received way more respect from people, way more love, kindness, all of those things, when I could actually admit that I had screwed up. And before that, I was always so afraid to admit that I screwed up.
Sure.
I had that fear that I was going to be judged, I was going to be disliked, and all of those things. But the moment that I realized that, hey, the minute that I screw up and I own it, I'm actually going to receive the things that I was afraid I wasn't going to receive by owning up to it.
There's something I tell my kids all the time, and I say this because I truly believe it. And then there's one other thing that that just popped into my head that may have some value in kind of this conversation. But I tell my kids all the time, I don't care what you've done. I can deal with honesty.
Yeah.
But if you lie to me, I can't help you because I've got to know what we're working with here.
You got to have that trust.
Absolutely. Like, once again, tell me you dumped red Kool-Aid on the carpet, but be honest about it. We'll move forward.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of rolls in as we're kind of wrapping up, Ryan. We've talked about a lot of things with your recovery, things you're doing personally, but my mind's drawing me to ask some follow-up questions to this, just because of where you and me met.
Sure.
And what we hopefully are going to do going forward with the Recovery Friendly Workplace Foundation. Is we've got a lot of guys listening, and we've got wives listening, and others. All of them have had jobs or have jobs currently. You're in an HR position, and we've talked a little bit about what you do. But if you could give a couple pieces of advice to employees out there that are listening about how they can be more vulnerable and how they can be more approachable when situations come up, what kind of advice would you give them?
Ooh. Excuse me. There is something that I've chosen to live by that most people have probably heard from Stephen Covey. You know, he's got his 7 habits of highly effective people. And those are still pretty strong and valuable even to this day.
Yeah.
Although he's passed, but nothing has changed with those. The one that I absolutely love the very most is seek first to understand, then be understood.
Ah, love that one.
And the reason I love that is it removes the judging and it removes everything else out of it. And it also says, look, I'm humble enough to admit that I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here to listen. And, there's in the training, if you've ever taken a course or whatever, the story is they illustrate this as a guy gets on a train and, this is his daily routine. And I'll paraphrase this, but his daily routine is to get on the train, read the newspaper on the way to work or phone or whatever. And, this day somebody gets on and 4 kids and, what appears to be dad sits down in the chair. And in that chair, he's just sullen and it's clear that he's checked out.
Yeah.
And the kids are running around and they're knocking over crap and they're causing all kinds of commotion. And some people would be the kind of individual that would either just ignore it and just pretend like nothing was happening. There's some people out there that be the kind of person that just sit there and live in the annoyance and live in the anger and let it ruin their day. And there's some people that would probably go up and say, what the hell? Control your children.
Yeah.
Now imagine that same guy looks at you. You may imagine that you're the person who went and said, control your children. What's up? What's the problem here? And they look at you and they have tears in their eyes and they say, we just left the hospital. Their mom passed away and I don't know how to tell them. That's the power of seek first to understand. If you can do that in life, can you imagine what that would do for the person on the other end of the comment, of the stare, of the glare? I honestly don't even remember your question, but
So perfect.
It's so perfect. And I want to ask you then, with that exact analogy, if that person's walking up and saying, what the hell, control your kids, in your eyes, what would be the rephrase of seek the information on that, to rephrase that statement to that dad?
Well, I would want to think, and I'm not always perfect at this because I get my attitude up too, but for the most part, it's that's when I haven't chosen the right things that day. But I'd like to think I was the individual that went up and say, hey, I noticed that your kids run around. What can I help you with? What can we do here? Or do you care if I've got some beef jerky in my backpack here? Do you mind?
Yeah.
Let's just find out what's really going on. And that's where that relationship comes in of let's just find out what's really going on. Because once all those walls are gone, man, you can make a difference.
Yeah.
And you get the ability to touch somebody's heart.
Well, then, so that goes back to the question, because that relates right into the workplace. If you're an employee and you see a fellow coworker that they're just off. Ask them.
How many times have you mentioned on your podcast that construction has one of the highest death by suicide rates?
Multiple.
I'm assuming it's quite often.
Yes.
That hasn't changed.
It hasn't. It is actually, unfortunately, preliminary numbers from last year are showing it went up again.
So in the spirit of recovery-friendly workplace and creating environments where people know they can go to where they can be vulnerable and they can be real and they can be themselves and they can make mistakes and it's okay. Those employers that are willing to take somebody who is on a track to change their life, you'd be amazed at the difference you get in commitment, in dedication, in somebody that is there with the right intentions, as opposed to somebody's just there to climb a ladder and make a paycheck.
Yeah, your employees are going to be so much more invested in that job if you've actually taken the time to go above and beyond to help them with their needs, with their mental health needs,
Yes.
with their daily needs, with their financial needs, with everything. That is one of the pivotal reasons of why we want to do this and why we are pushing this is your employer. If you have, our employers are like our families. We're there often with our coworkers and at our jobs more than we are with our families.
Absolutely.
And so oftentimes when you're struggling, and if you're working 40 to 60 hours a week, you don't have time to go and seek out the help outside of work.
No. Now take that bigger. Let's look at that in the bigger sense of now you've got a workplace that's got a culture that fosters that kind of behavior and the good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what that culture can do and how they're going to take care of each other and how they're going to take responsibility for the business and how they're really going to treat
100%.
all that's important.
Well, and it goes down the line. I don't know if you know Andy Anderson over at Ames Construction.
I do actually. I listen to that. I listen to his podcast.
Okay.
I'm like, oh yeah, check.
Yeah.
Yep, that's Andy.
So Andy's an amazing guy, and I actually was chatting with one of Ames's former employees the other day, and he had asked me because he had seen Mr. Pickle on the back of the truck, and I started this whole conversation. But he mentioned while we were sitting there of how much he missed working at a place that had somebody like Andy where he knew he could go in and talk to him about anything. He knew that Andy's door was always open and that there are other people there at Ames Construction that their doors are always open.
Absolutely.
And that was one thing that he said he misses the most about having that job is knowing that he has space to go talk to somebody.
That tells you that made a difference.
100%.
Somebody's life. And probably Andy did that.
Yes,
but
absolutely. But that shows me that what we're trying to do now, moving forward with the foundation, is so needed because if we can start helping businesses create that similar culture that he has done over there, and it's going to make such a difference in people's lives going forward.
So, it's not my foundation. I get the luxury and the privilege of being involved, but man, there's one thing I would say to people: don't put that brand or that, RFW poster up if you're not willing to live by it, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Correct.
If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it is not going to help anyone or anything.
It's not going to change anything. It's actually going to probably make
it worse.
Yeah, make the situation worse and more volatile because you're saying you do it, but then you don't.
Right. It just doesn't work, and people will figure it out really fast, and it will destroy everything that is good about that for somebody that's maybe only seen it one time or heard about it one time and realizes, well, I don't want a part of that. Mm-hmm. When the big goal is, look, let's be a community.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, as we discussed, Brian, we're kind of rolling up here, and before we kind of finish up and sign off, table's yours. You get to ask any questions, anything that's on your mind. I see what you thought of, and we're here for you.
You get to be the interviewer.
Oh,
and I know you're good at it, so
I'm good at it when I'm not sitting here in your chair.
Spot.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd love to know from each of you is, what do you do to make a difference in somebody's life each day? Scott?
You know what?
Or I should say, what do you try to do? Because not every day's
perfect.
What are you conscious of when you're like, hey, today?
My new goal, and really since we started this that I'm out in the field all the time, is everybody I come in contact with, coworkers, employees, prospects, anything like that. When I'm done with my conversation, I ask them genuinely if there's anything I can do for them personally today before I leave.
I love that.
And as I've started integrating that, it has opened doors, because sometimes I'll have somebody say, yes, you know what? Can I talk to you? It's happened more than once. And then I've also had people ask me about, yes, tell me more about what you're doing over here, because I think that could be helpful for somebody I know.
Right.
And so that is the question when I finish up any time of work conversation on the phone, in person, anything. I just ask them if there's anything else I can do for them personally today.
Oh, that's a great mantra. Fantastic. I'll bet that the person on the other end really feels that you're serious about that. Incredible. Hillary?
Yeah.
So I love how you actually even mentioned it before, because it's one of the goals that I had for my job this year, was when somebody comes in, giving that person my full attention. That's hard to do. I mean, in HR, I mean, in my position, I do HR, I do payroll, I do benefits administration, I do collections, I do accounts receivable. There's so many hats, and we are constantly busy. Oftentimes I've caught myself where somebody had come in and I'm not giving them my full attention. I'm still going to continue. Oh, I've got to finish this email or whatnot. And sometimes that's okay. But my goal was to be, if I am engaged in something, I'll say, can you hold on just 1 minute? I just got to type in this last sentence, and then I will give you my full attention. But being aware of that and being more mindful that when somebody comes in to ask me for help, or somebody comes in with a concern or anything like that, I am physically, mentally, emotionally, everything I want to be engaged with that person.
I think we've been taught in situations like this, throughout life, that multitasking makes you that much better.
Yeah.
Not when you're dealing with people.
No.
When you're dealing with people, that's the important thing in the moment. I love that you said that.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you mentioned it too, because that was one of the key things that I've always tried, but I've seen myself fall back into bad habits of, oh, I've really got to finish this. I can't give them my full attention. But I do love what you said about, hey, I've got 5 minutes that I can spend with you. If you need some more than that, let's set a time aside for later so that I can give you all the attention that you need. I love that.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Now the tougher question, what's if 10 seconds or less, what do you do for yourself, and what do you do for yourself to keep you where you need to be? Because once again, if we're not taking care of ourselves, self-care is important.
My thing that I've started since, I don't know if I told you this. We actually started doing retreats. We held our first men's retreat back in August, and I taught a connection seminar that I spent time putting together. And during that connection seminar, I encouraged and told everybody something I've always struggled with is, in the morning, everybody looks in the mirror at some point in the morning before you go. Brian looks in the mirror a lot more than others.
Maybe a little. Hey, 56 is not 40.
I had to throw it out there. That's gonna be crap. But looking in the mirror every morning into my own eyes, truly looking in my own eyes and saying something good about myself. I have really tried to start doing that since I taught others that they need to do it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I don't succeed at it every day. I would say I probably hit it 4 to 5 days a week that I succeed at it. But doing that has made a big difference in my days, that even when I wake up and I've had an awful dream and I'm telling Hillary about it, she's like, oh my gosh, I'll go in and look in the mirror and say, that dream was not real. That was not you. You were you. You can have a good day. So
sometimes it's hard to love yourself, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's the hardest thing we have to do.
It's true.
It's easier to love everybody else in the world.
Absolutely.
But you got to love yourself first.
Absolutely. And it's easier to give it away when you do.
Absolutely.
No.
Something that I do for myself, I read, and I it probably drives Scott nuts. And I know it does. It does drive him nuts. But I always read at night before I go to bed. And I've, in the last year or so, I started even implementing audiobooks as well. That is my escape. That is my just something that I get to do for myself.
Beautiful.
And I love it because knowledge is power. And I read all different kinds of books. I try to implement a little bit of everything, some self-help. I try to do some fantasy. I do some fiction, novels, all of it. But I love to read. And that's something that I get to do for myself.
Good. So at the end of the day, the one thing I'd make to your listeners is just try to be the person that you want to be. If you're not perfect, that's not the goal. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to be better than you were.
Better than yesterday.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, better than yesterday.
Give yourself some grace.
Yeah, I love that. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
It has been good and great to hear more about your past, a little bit about what made Brian the man he is today.
Oh,
so thank you.
You are
I really
welcome.
appreciate it. I am extremely excited to work with you over this next year as this foundation rolls out and the things that we get to provide and help other people with. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for it.
And you know what? I'm willing to take a little bit of joy in watching people's faces drop when they realize they're staring at three addicts that that have made it to a place in life that they didn't think could, and see the realism on their face when they see that change and they go, oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, everybody always has a son, a family member, or somebody that they just hurt for them and they don't know why.
To wrap this up, if anybody has a family member in that spot, anybody is in that spot personally, you're deep into it, you're coming out of it, whatever stage of that part of your life you're in, it's not who you are. It's not who you're going to stay to be. It's where you're at today. And you can do it. You are awesome. You are a big deal. You've got to remember that it's just a phase. It's just part of your learning experience. And that's one thing, I guess, Brian, to wrap this up for me, is changing that mindset of every experience is a learning experience. Some are good, some are bad, but it is a good experience if I come out on the other side knowing something I didn't know.
I would agree. Absolutely.
So, well, everybody, we're going to throw it out there. If you have somebody struggling, if you are in a bad spot, you don't know where to turn, you don't know where help is, the very first thing you should be doing is calling 988 here in Utah. The 988 Live On phone number is available for you 24/7, 365 days a year. You call that, you're going to get in touch with somebody immediately. They can talk to you on the phone. They can text you. They can show up to your house with a social worker and a therapist. They can send out emergency people if you're in a bad situation. So reach out to 988 if you guys have any need. If you don't know where to turn, use that as your first resource.
988 isn't just for emergencies. It is for resources as well.
Agreed. And ask yourself, if you pick up that phone and you're hesitating, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen here if I dial that number?
Yeah.
I guarantee it's not near as it's not near as negative as you would think it would be. There are good people on the other end of that call.
We have used it multiple times personally. It is a lifesaver, literally, but it is genuinely, when they pick up that phone, you were talking to somebody who cares.
Yeah.
So that's your first line of defense. Next line of defense, I'm going to throw Sarah Galvez's number. Brian, you're going to get to know her because she's on the board with us as well. But Sarah says, and I love it, and we're always going to use it.
Google it.
We're in a day and age where if you're looking for something, it is such a easy spot to start.
Mm-hmm.
It'll give you at least some direction of things to look into. So use those two. Again, everybody, we are always here for you guys. You can reach out to us through social media, through our website, comment on any of the podcasts. If you're going through anything, if you need help, you need advice, direction, we're here to help you as well. Again, we'll be putting out information about RFW and the resources that'll be available for businesses, employees going forward throughout this year. That's coming up. But our challenge, we're rolling with it all through this year again, is the Triple R challenge. Recognize, release, and replace something in your life. Think about it. Everybody has that one thing. And again, that's recognize, release, and replace. Make your life better, grow a little bit, learn a little bit this year, and take these episodes and share them with somebody that you love. We do this because we love every single one of you. We're sharing everybody's stories. We're sharing information that we find valuable. And we hope that you find it valuable as well, and that you find it valuable enough to share it with somebody in your life that you love. So take this one and share it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And everybody, don't ever forget that you are all
A big deal.